A throne world in Destiny can be very powerful and can act as a safe haven when things go wrong. In the case of the Hive Gods, these are alternate dimensions and grant ultimate power through the Sword Logic's demolition. But did you know the Hive aren't the only beings who have one of these said throne worlds? Today we're going to discuss the portal to Mara's secret throne world, hints and steps for the Malfeasance quest, the Mindbender's mysteries, and much more. Mara Sov, Queen of the Awoken and firstborn of her kind, has so many secrets hidden beyond the veil. She's lied to her people multiple times, and this has caused some pretty detrimental outcomes. But some of these lies furthered the Awoken species and revolutionized their ideals when they made their way back to the solar system. A pretty big example of this is what we're going to talk about next. So prior to the Taken War, Mara prepared her ultimate plan to steal the Taken King's throne and equip this immense power for herself. This is explained in the new Forsaken lore called Throne. Eris Morn returned to the Vestian outpost. Because she spoke well, it was agreed that the aid would be traded for intelligence in a long-term alliance. In this way, the Awoken were the first to know the Great Navigator, his philosophies, his strategies, and his weaknesses, and this is being Oryx. And as the Awoken Coven contemplated the possibilities laid wide before this God King's far-flung sword, it was decreed that they would build their own throne world beneath an energy well as blind as the ferryman Charon. Nasia drew the schematics and Portia worked out the calculations. They made their first test with a small rift generator over on the eastern shore. Satisfied that their methods were sound, they went to a grand cathedral to dig the well. There, Lysiel and Sadia argued the first borehole with the help of Riven, who had taken the shape of a needle-nosed basilisk, while Kali and Shiro-Chi constructed the gate itself, deep below in the hall they named the Confluence. Aelin made tincture after tincture of queen's foil until her clothes stank and her hands were stained reddish black. Open-eyed, she walked between planes and sorted the threads of reality on a vast metaphysical loom, weaving some closer and some distant. Mara and Riven shaped her third throne together, and the artistry of their work was a testament to the hungry joy they felt in that partnership. They named it Elusina, and it was in those ascendant halls that Mara finally carved a statue for Xur. When it came time to connect the well to the unreality that lay beyond the gateway, Sadia asked, "Would it not be wiser to leave this door without a key?" Riven, now an immense antlered serpent with broad tiger paws, tightened around the perimeter of the room like a noose. "Egg," Mara corrected absently, chewing on her thumbnail. "The key is so heavy as to be unliftable," Kali ventured, since they were speaking metaphorically. Sadia flapped her hand dismissively. Yes, I know." They all knew that the gate required a continuous multi-week charge of paracausal energies, and that almost nothing in the solar system could produce such energies at the scale required by the gateway. Mara ran her hand along the sleek surface of the primary well's control mechanism. She then turned and walked alone toward the fresh, foggy air that blew in from the coast. The Techians watched her go. "There is only the plan," Aelin said. "Remember your vows, Sadia." So this is very cool because first off, it describes how Mara created the throne and why. This all was in preparation for the Battle of Saturn, and Eris Morn had some insider information which definitely helped out with the process. Second, Mara and Riven built this throne together, and it's located under a well in a hall named the Confluence. More on that in a bit. When Mara's body was destroyed in the Taken King, she was sent to the Ascendant Plane. During the Taken King, like we've talked about before, Oryx invaded the Dreaming City, took Riven, and ruined Mara's Ascendant realm. Now, she was floating out there for a while in the Ascendant Plane, and she eventually made her way back to her own throne world, and she finds this. Joy wells in her heart when searching fingers trace the edges of Elusina. She has passed through the desert, she has reached the far side of the chessboard, she is alive, or soon will be. She opens the door and her joy dies on the threshold. Her throne world is desecrated, not annihilated as Oryx's was. The pillars and terraces and courtyards still retain their shape, but their roots have rotted and the geometry festers. She should have known she would not be the only one to plan for such eventualities. Oryx's boot prints pucker like scars in the labyrinth that was only once her own. She sits a while beneath Xur's statue, then follows his tracks through the ruins of Elusina back to the Dreaming City. So as for Mara's current location, she's either in the Ascendant Plane or in her throne world. But regardless of where she is, we do know she's battling something on the other side, and this is pretty interesting.
Kill that creature and extract its heart. I offer the riches of our realm as bounty. Open the gates and let the Guardians in. I must go. The battle rages on. If you have news, send it. I will answer as I am able. Stay strong, my wrath. I believe in you.
So in summary, Mara has her own throne world. She made it before the Taken War, and when her body was destroyed, orcs kinda invaded it and messed it up a bit. Lastly, you may have noticed that the throne lore card explains how exactly to open the portal to Mara's throne world. So it tells us they dug a well and constructed a gate deep below in a hall they named the Confluence. The only way to open this said gate required a continuous multi-week charge of paracausal energies. So what this most likely means is that we have to compete in the blind well for several weeks, and eventually the way will open. Now the exact way is kind of unknown. Maybe it's after tier 4, maybe a portal is just going to appear. I mean, it's still a little foggy, but the portal to Mara's throne world is under the blind well in the Confluence. So here's a picture of the gate, and this is also backed by Petra's dialogue from this week.
We found the source of the corruption. Everything is seeping out of a stargate in the Confluence. The blind well is the key to that stargate. The well needs more time to charge, but soon, we will be able to strike directly at the heart of the curse. Until then, we must hold the line. If you're in search of another noble deed, one of the Techians has fresh news.
So definitely pretty exciting, and makes me wonder what we're going to encounter on the other side. If we do actually go down here, enter this portal, what are we going to kill that's going to stop this curse? Because that's what Petra talked about. Now it's also worth noting that Mara is not the only character in Destiny to have a throne world besides the Hive Gods. If you were unaware, one of the barons for the Forsaken expansion, the Mindbender, actually had his own throne world. So in a summary, all the barons were like dregs, and they kind of evolved and, turned into what they are now. This particular dreg, the Mindbender, was actually in the Hellmouth on the moon. So here he was a fallen and had this encounter with the Hive, kind of like Eris Morn. He was forced to learn some of the culture and language because he was sort of stuck there. But with all of this knowledge, he also learned about the Ascendant Realms and actually constructed one for his own purpose. Of course, this was after some events and after killing Cade 6, but this is all a story for another time. So the next thing we have to talk about is some of these steps to get the Malfeasance and some of the lore behind it. Now before we get into that, I'm going to say that this is probably a time-gated quest, but we do know some of the steps, and from what we can gather pretty far, it sounds pretty interesting even with some of the lore. So the first step is this. It says you found a component part of some kind of weapon at Callum's grave. It must be what he stole from the Drifter. He'd probably like it back. So it looks like the first step, we're going to go to Callum's grave, wherever that is, and obtain a part of the weapon, which will eventually turn out to be the Malfeasance. Now I'm not going to dive into the whole backstory, but basically Callum was a shadow of yore, and he was eventually killed by Shin Malfur. He kind of worked alongside the Drifter for a little bit, and I guess it makes sense because he has some of his weapon parts, and now since he's dead, we're going to go and take those parts back. So right now we're unsure exactly where the grave is. It could be found in any lost sector, but most likely on Io, the EDZ, basically places that some of the Taken spawn, because that's also mentioned in the lore of them killing the Taken. So after that, step 2 is you've defeated a particularly powerful primeval in Gambit and taken its heart. Drifter might find it valuable. Take it to him. So after obtaining the first part there, going back to the Drifter, he's going to have you kill a powerful primeval in Gambit, and he wants you to bring the heart back to him. And lastly, step 3 is you played Gambit for a little bit, you've met the enemies of humanity head on and made them pay. The Drifter has rewarded you handsomely for the Motes of Dark you've collected. Now it's time you see the culmination of your partnership with the Drifter. So then I guess you just gotta play Gambit for a bit, and then he gives you the weapon. So I hope that's a little bit helpful, gives you some insight on how to get the Malfeasance before it comes out, but as we know, this is most likely time gated at the moment. I did also want to say that many people thought, hey, I gotta reset my Gambit rank twice and then buy the package. Now many people have done that already, and nobody has the weapon. So unless that needs to be completed after the time gate is lifted, for now that's not the correct way to get it, and the first step is going to be going to Callum's grave. Anyway, Guardians, is all I got for today's video. Hope you enjoyed all this information on the secret portal beneath the Blind Well, how other characters besides the Hive have their throne worlds, and then a little bit of that Malfeasance info. If you'd like to see other videos just like this one, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and definitely be sure to like this video up if you enjoyed. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. My name's Evade, and I'll catch you Guardians in the next one.